Her name is Adaize. She runs a small provisions shop in Asaba, Delta State. Every morning she wakes up at 5, unlocks the metal shutter on her shop, and starts arranging her shelves before the morning rush. She sells everything: sachets of milk, tin tomatoes, washing soap, phone credit. Most of our customers pay on credit because their own money is tight. In 2023, Adaize voted. She queued for 3 hours in the heat. She voted for the PDP governorship candidate, the man who promised to fix the road behind her street, to sort out the water supply situation that has been broken since 2018, to create youth employment in Asaba. She voted with hope. She came home with ink on her finger and something she had not felt in a while: the belief that her vote meant something. Then, in 2025, she opened her phone and saw the headline. Her governor, the man she voted for, on a PDP ticket, had walked into an APC party hall in Abuja and crossed to the ruling party. No vote, no consultation, no by-election, just a press release and a photo with the president. Adaize did not change her vote. Nobody asked her to. Her governor did it for her. What is happening to Adaize is not just a story about one woman in one shop in one street in Asaba. In the last 2 years, at least 7 governors elected on PDP platforms have done exactly what her governor did: crossed to the APC without a single new election being held. 7 governors, millions of voters like Adaize, never consulted. So, here is the question you need answered before you think about 2027 at all. Why? Why are these governors crossing? Who told them to? What are they being given? And what happens to people like Adaize, people who voted in good faith, when the system allows this to happen without consequence? Before we go deeper, if you're just finding NaijaNewsWatch, welcome. This channel exists to break down what is really happening in Nigerian politics without the noise and without the spin. If that is the kind of analysis you enjoy, hit subscribe and stay with me, because this story is about to get a lot more interesting. Let us catch you up on exactly what happened and why it is coming to a head right now. In a move reshaping Nigeria's political landscape, several governors elected under the main opposition PDP defected to the ruling All Progressives Congress ahead of the 2027 general elections. The names are specific: Umo Eno of Akwa Ibom, Sheriff Oberevori of Delta, Adaize's governor, Doye Deri of Bayelsa, Peter Mba of Enugu. These 4 alone cover the entire South-South and a critical Southeast state, and they are not the only ones. Together with other crossings further north, the wave now totals at least 7 significant governor-level defections in under 2 years. This is not how normal Nigerian politics works. Individual politicians defect regularly, that is not news. But 7 sitting governors from the same opposition party in the same short window crossing to the same ruling party? Observers say the movement is unprecedented due to its timing, pace, and symbolism. Now, here is what triggered the current wave, and these 3 things are happening at the same time. First, a historic FAAC windfall. In 2025, states received 9 trillion naira from the Federation account, a 41% increase on the previous year. The financial incentive to be on good terms with the federal government distributing that money was larger than at any point in Nigerian democratic history. Second, the PDP's internal collapse. The party's National Working Committee is in a leadership dispute over who is the legitimate chairman and general secretary. That dispute creates a specific legal risk for PDP governors seeking re-election. Which faction signs their nomination form? Crossing to the APC removes that risk entirely. Third, the specific alleged financial packages for defectors. Reports emerged that each defecting governor was promised a 250 billion naira package, 100 billion naira upfront on commitment, the rest on delivery. The presidency denied this, but the pattern of systematic sequential defections happening in a compressed time window from the same opposition party moving to the same destination is more consistent with a structured operation than 7 separate governors each making the same calculation at around the same time. The denial of the specific figure does not make the pattern go away. Now, let's look at the actual legal architecture, because to understand why this is happening and why nobody has stopped it, you need to understand the specific rules that govern it and the gaps in those rules. The Nigerian Constitution's Section 221 contains an anti-defection provision. It says a member of the National Assembly or a State House of Assembly who defects from the party on whose platform they were elected loses their seat, with limited exceptions for party merger or a formal split. That provision exists to protect the will of the voters who elected the candidate on a specific party platform. But here is the gap that makes Adaize's situation possible. That anti-defection rule applies to legislators. It does not apply to governors. A sitting governor can defect to any political party at any time without losing his seat, without triggering a by-election, and without any legal obligation to consult the voters who put him in office. There is no constitutional mechanism for voters to recall a governor. There is no provision for a snap election when a governor fundamentally changes his political allegiance. This means that when Adaize's governor walked into that APC hall in Abuja, he did nothing illegal. He exercised a right that the Constitution gives him but takes no corresponding responsibility from him towards the voters who elected him. The Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission manages the FAAC formula. Automatic FAAC disbursements are constitutional and in theory politically neutral. They flow based on a formula, not on party affiliation. But the discretionary layer above FAAC, the intervention funds, ecological funds, security deployment decisions, regulatory approvals, and federal infrastructure allocation decisions is entirely at the executive's discretion. And that discretion flows towards aligned governors far more readily than towards opposition governors. That is not written in any law, but it is documented in how Nigerian governance has operated across every administration since 1999. The Electoral Act's nomination provisions create the third legal dimension. For a governor to seek re-election, a party must conduct a primary and submit his name to INEC. A party with a contested national leadership, as the PDP currently has, creates legal risk. Rival factions could conduct rival primaries, submit rival candidates, and the court disputes could invalidate a candidacy entirely. The APC, with its functional national leadership structure, eliminates that risk, which means the legal security of switching is higher than the legal security of staying. Now, let's go into the engine room. This is the part you actually came for. Let us be precise. There are 5 distinct reasons governors are crossing, and they are not all the same. Flattening them into a single explanation misses what is actually happening. Reason 1, the PDP nomination form crisis. Pundits say many of the governors are moving to the APC because they fear for their chances in the 2027 general elections, especially if the PDP does not settle who its authentic national chairman and general secretary is. This is an immediate practical legal problem with an immediate practical solution. Cross to the APC and the problem disappears overnight. Reason 2, fiscal leverage. In Nigeria's highly centralized system, the federal government controls significant resources from allocations and infrastructure projects to the security apparatus. By joining the ruling party, governors believe they can secure more favorable treatment for their states. This is not assumption, it is rational behavior in a system where the discretionary federal layer is demonstrably larger for aligned governors than for opposition governors. That is not written in any law, but it is documented in how Nigerian governance has operated across every administration since 1999. The Electoral Act's nomination provisions create the third legal dimension. For a governor to seek re-election, a party must conduct a primary and submit his name to INEC. A party with a contested national leadership, as the PDP currently has, creates legal risk. Rival factions could conduct rival primaries, submit rival candidates, and the court disputes could invalidate a candidacy entirely. The APC, with its functional national leadership structure, eliminates that risk, which means the legal security of switching is higher than the legal security of staying. Now, let's go into the engine room. This is the part you actually came for. Let us be precise. There are 5 distinct reasons governors are crossing, and they are not all the same. Flattening them into a single explanation misses what is actually happening. Reason 1, the PDP nomination form crisis. Pundits say many of the governors are moving to the APC because they fear for their chances in the 2027 general elections, especially if the PDP does not settle who its authentic national chairman and general secretary is. This is an immediate practical legal problem with an immediate practical solution. cross to the APC and the problem disappears overnight. Reason 2, fiscal leverage. In Nigeria's highly centralized system, the federal government controls significant resources from allocations and infrastructure projects to the security apparatus. By joining the ruling party, governors believe they can secure more favorable treatment for their states. This is not assumption, it is rational behavior in a system where the discretionary federal layer is demonstrably larger for aligned governors than for opposition governors.
Reason 3, the alleged financial packages. Sources claim that each defecting state governor was allocated a total package of 250 billion naira, released in 2 tranches, 100 billion naira upfront. The presidency denied this, but the pattern of 7 sequential systematic defections happening in a compressed time window from the same opposition party moving to the same destination is more consistent with a structured operation than with 7 separate governors each independently making the same calculation at roughly the same time. The denial of the specific figure does not make the pattern go away. Reason 4, the re-election protection calculation. A governor in the APC in 2027 does not face federal incumbency being used against him. He benefits from it. Security deployments, media access, federal project visibility, regulatory decisions, all of these tilt toward aligned governors. The structural election advantage of being inside the ruling party at a time when the APC controls the machinery of federal governance is worth more than any campaign strategy. Reason 5, the simple belief that the opposition cannot win. A governor who genuinely concludes that the PDP or any opposition party cannot win the 2027 presidential election, who believes that 4 more years in opposition means 4 more years of political weakness and fiscal disadvantage, has a rational incentive to cross now, build relationships with the governing administration, and protect his own re-election and political future. Now here is the pattern interrupt I want you to hold, the thing that completely changes how you should think about this story. Governors who defected are receiving record FAAC allocations. States received 9 trillion naira in 2025, the largest in Nigerian history, and yet state governors are facing growing criticism despite receiving this record windfall, because labor unions, civil society groups, and ordinary citizens argue that soaring revenues have not translated into tangible improvements in their welfare. So here's what the data is telling us. The governors crossed to the APC, received record allocations, and their citizens are still struggling. Adaize's road still has not been fixed. The water supply in her ward is still broken. The young people on her street are still unemployed. The crossing did not produce development. It produced continued allocation without the accountability that should accompany it. Now let us talk about who the silent players are. The first silent player is Wike. Nyesom Wike, FCT minister, PDP member, Tinubu's most important cross-party asset, is the broker who made several of these crossings possible. His relationships with South-South governors, his direct communication lines to Aso Rock, and his political model of multi-party personal dominance provided the template and the architecture within which individual governors could negotiate their own terms for crossing. He did not hold a press conference about it, but his fingerprints are on the pattern. The second silent player is the voter in each defecting state. Adaize, the Delta Market woman, the Bayelsa civil servant, the Akwa Ibom Youth Corps member. These are the millions of people whose political choices were effectively overridden by their governor's personal calculations. They have no legal recourse, but they have a vote in 2027. And whether they reward the crossing with re-election or punish it with an alternative, that is the single most important electoral variable currently unmeasured. Now, if what I just laid out surprises you, drop a comment below. I want to know your take before we get to the part that changes the whole picture. After the crossing, what actually changed for her? Practically, her governor is now in the same party as the president. Theoretically, that should mean the federal infrastructure she has been waiting for, the road, the water supply, should be easier to unlock. More federal goodwill, more project access, more political alignment working in the community's favor. But the record FAAC data tells us that has not been the experience. The 9 trillion naira in 2025 went to states, and citizens like Adaize, civil society groups, labor unions, community leaders across those same states are saying the money is not reaching them in ways they can feel. The crossing changed Adaize's governor's party card. It has not yet changed Adaize's road. For businesses in defecting states, the immediate political uncertainty of a crossing, the few weeks of confusion as party structures adjust, can affect commerce. Contractors who had relationships with PDP-connected officials may find those relationships disrupted. APC-connected contractors may find new opportunities. The redistribution of contract access that happens when a governor crosses is real and financially significant, even if it is invisible in the official narrative. For Nigerian federalism as a whole, the defection wave produces a specific structural problem, a fiscal architecture in which the federal government controls the overwhelming majority of distributable revenue and in which alignment with the federal ruling party produces measurable material benefits for states, makes genuine state-level political autonomy financially unsustainable. The defections are not just a political story, they are proof that the financial dependence of states on the center has reached a level where genuine opposition at the state level is too expensive to maintain. The international dimension of this story is real and connects directly to how Nigeria's governance environment is assessed globally. International democracy monitoring institutions, the African Union, ECOWAS, the European Union, and the Carter Center assess democratic health partly through the robustness of party competition. A country in which the ruling party controls virtually every governorship, not through winning elections, but through engineering defections from elected opposition governors, is a country whose democratic competition is structurally compromised. That assessment affects Nigeria's international standing in the democracy indices that inform diplomatic relationships and development partnerships. The FAAC-related allegations, the claim that 800 billion naira of public funds was channeled through governor-level contributions into the APC's re-election campaign infrastructure, are being watched by the World Bank, the IMF, and Afreximbank, all of which have recent program relationships with Nigeria. These multilateral institutions have governance conditions attached to their financing. Systematic diversion of constitutionally allocated public funds into political campaign infrastructure is precisely the governance concern that triggers compliance questions and potentially affects the terms of ongoing and future lending. For Nigerians in the diaspora, the defection wave is a direct accountability signal about your home state. If your governor crossed parties without consulting your community, his political master is now in Abuja, not in your ward. The channel of accountability has been redirected, and in 2027, whether that accountability can be restored through the ballot box is the single most important electoral variable you can engage with from abroad. Let me address what people are getting wrong on every side. The first misconception from APC supporters is that the defections represent genuine public endorsement of Tinubu's governance record. The party welcomed defectors, asserting that politicians are willingly joining because of significant achievements of the renewed Hope administration. But if achievements were the driver, citizens in defecting states would be reporting visible improvements. The documented criticism from labor unions and civil society in those exact states, despite record FAAC allocations, contradicts the achievement narrative. The second misconception from opposition supporters is that all 7 defections are purely purchased corruption with no legitimate element. The picture is more complicated. Some crossings genuinely reflect fear of the PDP's legal collapse on nomination forms. Some reflect rational electoral survival calculation. Some likely reflect financial inducement. Treating all 7 as a single corruption story misses the institutional complexity. The third and most dangerous misconception, and this one should concern every Nigerian voter, is that the defections are permanent and that the APC has secured these states indefinitely. In Nigerian political history, defections move in both directions depending on who holds power. Every governor who crossed did so because the APC currently controls the federal government and the FAAC advantage. The moment that calculation changes, if a credible opposition polling lead emerges, or if FAAC revenues moderate and the fiscal premium of alignment decreases, the loyalty of some of these governors could shift again. Defections are not conversions, they are positioning. The strongest honest argument for the defections is this: a governor operating in opposition against a federal government that controls 52% of distributable revenue, that makes daily discretionary decisions affecting your state, and whose alignment produces measurable operational advantages, that governor faces genuine governance disadvantages that are not in his community's interest to sustain. The argument that crossing is in the best interest of the state, not just the governor, that argument has structural merit. Whether it is actually true depends on whether the crossing produces development outcomes, not just allocation flows. Here is what to watch between now and 2027. First signal, whether more defections follow or the wave stabilizes. If remaining opposition governors in major northwest or north-central states begin to cross in the months ahead, it signals that the structural incentives for doing so have not weakened. If the wave stabilizes, it suggests that some threshold has been reached, either of APC capacity to absorb new members or of remaining governors concluding that the personal and political cost of crossing now exceeds the benefit. Second signal, FAAC disbursement trends in 2026. The 2025 surge was driven by specific oil price and naira policy factors. If those factors moderate, if FAAC allocations to states decline in 2026 relative to 2025, the fiscal premium of APC alignment decreases. Watch whether any governor who crossed begins to create public distance from the APC re-election campaign if the economic benefit of alignment appears to be declining. Third signal, voter behavior in defecting states at the 2027 governorship races. This is the most consequential unmeasured variable in the entire story. The civil servants in Delta, the market women in Akwa Ibom, the community leaders in Bayelsa, all of them, like Adieze, who voted in good faith for a PDP governor and got an APC one, will register their verdict in 2027. Watch for civil society governance assessments in defecting states and for any available polling in gubernatorial approval in those states. That data, when it emerges, will tell you whether the crossing paid politically for the governors who made it. Best case scenario, the defections hold, the governors deliver visible governance improvements, the road in Adieze Street finally gets fixed, the water supply comes back, the fiscal advantage of alignment translates into tangible community outcomes, the citizens of defecting states go into 2027 saying the crossing was worth it, and Tinubu wins a second term with a genuine mandate from a structurally dominant national machine. Worst case scenario, the governance outcomes in defecting states do not improve. Record FAAC allocations continue to flow without reaching communities. Citizens like Adieze conclude that the crossing changed nothing for them, and in the 2027 gubernatorial races, opposition candidates who campaign specifically on the accountability gap defeat the converted governors in their home states. The APC acquires the governors in 2025 and 2026, but loses the states again in 2027 at the exact moment it needed clean presidential results from those territories. Let us go back to Adieze. She is still in her shop in Asaba. The metal shutter still opens at 5, the customers still come, the road behind her street is still broken, the water supply is still out, and her governor is still in office, just on a different party card than the one she voted for. At the beginning of this video, I asked you, why are these governors crossing? Who told them to? What are they being given? And what happens to people like Adieze when the system allows this without consequence? Here is the honest answer. They are crossing because the financial architecture of Nigerian federalism makes opposition at the state level structurally unsustainable, because the PDP's internal collapse created an immediate legal risk they needed to escape, because the fiscum and electoral advantages of APC alignment are for a governor calculating his political survival too large to ignore, and some of them, how many we cannot confirm, were likely handed specific financial packages to accelerate the decision. What happens to Adieze? Here is the thing the analysis cannot resolve for her, and the thing she will resolve herself in 2027. She has a vote. The governor has his party card, but she has a vote. And in Nigeria, one thing has been consistently true across every election since 1999. When enough people like Adieze decide that their vote is a verdict, not just a preference but a verdict, the machine does not always hold. My measured conclusion: the governor defection wave is the most visible symptom of a broken federalism that concentrates revenue at the center and makes genuine state-level autonomy financially impossible. Until Nigeria reforms how revenue is distributed, giving states real fiscal independence, reducing FAAC dependency, creating genuine incentives for governance competition rather than political alignment, the logic of crossing to whoever holds Abuja will remain overwhelming. The political will to make that reform is the question that matters more than any individual defection. The question I want to leave you with is this: do you think people like Adeze, ordinary voters in defecting states who were never consulted about their governor's party change, will hold their governors accountable at the 2027 ballot box? Or will the APC machine be too powerful for any voter-level verdict to land? Drop your honest answer in the comments. If this breakdown gave you clarity on what is really going on, do me a favor, share it with one person who needs to understand this. Like the video, subscribe to NaijaNewsWatch, and I will see you in the next one. Stay sharp.